Hello, hello, how are you all? First video of 2024, so welcome back to you and welcome back to me. Yes, I have been reading quite a lot of books and I kind of feel them piling up, so we'll get going with two, both Australian novels, and the first one up today is Adrian Hyland's The Wiregrass, and this comes to us from Ultimo Press. Now, I mean, Hyland's written a few, but this one follows the same character that we had in Canticle Creek, which came out, and you will all have to forgive me if I can't remember which year it was, because they're all a blur at this point, about 2 years ago, in which, that was Canticle Creek, and we met Jess Redpath for the first time, and I was very smitten with Jess Redpath and with her setup and her, Hyland's very small cast of characters and his work on landscape. And The Wiregrass is no disappointment. In fact, it's a zinger. I really, really loved this one. So we're back with Jess, who is this time up in the Victorian High Country and in that kind of small town. So you have a completely different feel from the kind of the outback small town where everybody sees everything. This is very much a text or a narrative where things are not seen. There's a lot of being hidden, and we're right in the middle of this landscape, which is twisty and narrow and reveals and hides, which is almost central to this story. So basically, there's an accident that Jess has been called in to investigate. Someone is dead, and there's nothing at this stage which leads her to think that this could be anything other than, a tragedy involving, tractors and trees and whatever. It's only when she has a chance encounter on one of said twisty roads with a tortoise saving disgraced ex-cop Nash, who that any sort of her connection and conversations with him alert her to the fact that there may be more to this accident and to the narratives behind what goes on up here in this part of the high country, that alert Jess to the fact that sinister doings might be afoot. The thing about this, without having to go too much into the storyline, because what I really liked, there are many things I really liked. One of the things I found fascinating was this very tight control that Hyland has over his cast. So you've got Jess and you've got this Nash, who's the source of all the information about the who's who. We have, and it's something that could have gone into the realm of sort of far too many characters or far too much weirdness, because you're up in country where there are characters who are a little bit sort of hippie weird. You've got your standard cast of sort of farmers, and he keeps it nice and cleanly to a cast that doesn't let us get too involved in too many red herrings, and all completely sort of nicely portrayed. There's nothing too wild, weird, or wacky, but there's wacky stuff going on because we have had a cult that had existed, and you feel is kind of closed down. That's way up on a cliff top. You've got sort of your future sort of tarot reader style, jangly beads, hippie style, and people who are not forthcoming. So there's all of this whole narrative about what's being revealed and what's being hidden, and that a past belongs to a place, and it's hard to come into a place and kind of to dig out what all of that was. I love Jess. I love that she's feisty and she's maverick, but she has that intelligence to sort of be deferential to her superiors, to take advice, to back off when necessary. But, she functions very much on gut instinct. I love the fact that said gut instinct leads her to a very spicy sort of encounter with Nash, who she's that's very well written, good fun. A bit of romance is always very welcome. And the landscape. And I think Hyland has this magic thing where he never sacrifices plot to descriptive work, and because they're in a beautiful interlocking tandem here, because in many ways the landscape is as much a part of this story, and I'm at risk of repeating myself, in that it hides and reveals, in that it's sort of rugged topology, will reveal things at times that are necessary, and that the battle is also with that. I found it an absolutely delicious read that sort of left me intellectually very satisfied. It's clever, but you'd fall in love with high country if you weren't already in love with it. So for me, a zinger. Yeah, come and get that one. It's great. The second one is Sidelines by Karen Viggers, and this comes to us from Alan and Unwin. Now, very, very different read. Again, very, it's an Australian cultural phenomenon that we all know. Sidelines gives it away. We're talking about sport, and we're particularly, Viggers is investigating or looking into children participating in sport, and where competitiveness goes, what's healthy, what's not healthy, and parental modelling, all of that sidelines behaviour. But she's not really so much concentrating on that. I mean, what we're looking at is we have an upper middle class, the sort of professionals, lawyer, and that's Dan and Jacinda. I mean, I got my names all wrong. I keep calling her Jocasta, and it isn't. It's Jacinda. No, Jonica and Ben. And they have two children. I'm sorry if I don't remember the names, because I read this a little while ago. They have two twins, Audrey and Alex. And Audrey is who we're kind of focusing on. We're focusing on that she's talented, so is Alex. And in order for her to advance, we're in our teens, early teens, for her to advance and be the best player that she can, soccer player, she is going to try out for the boys' team. And this already says something about sport, doesn't it? So she's, we're all in the throes of sort of girls playing with the boys, being the best they can be, and they're heavily encouraged by their parents, particularly their father, who we learn did not do as well as he believed he should have in the sporting field. We also have, trying out on this team, another young woman, and I think this is what we're looking at, is we're looking at how these two girls are going to fare in a male milieu. And the other girl, Katerina, is you feel very driven. Her mother, Carmen, is very driven. And it's how the parental involvement, being there for matches, doing the tea and coffee service, and being there for training, setting things up, taking things down, organising things, how all of this kind of can favour your child on a team. So we're looking at all of this. Obviously, there's going to be a climax or crisis point in this, where team behaviour, the boys sort of kind of ignoring the girls, or outwardly, physically, sort of obstructing them, becomes a problem. And then there are one or two very talented boys on the team who are highly ambitious, and their parents are highly ambitious, and the one does not really go without the other. And then a young, very talented player called Griffin comes onto the team, and Audrey, who we're mostly focusing on, actually quite likes him, and he's actually pretty talented, and actually everybody else gets their nose put out of joint because he's looking like the star player. And then there is violence on the pitch, and someone comes cropper. And how did that happen in children's sport? So we're looking at, what is sport for? How far do parents, are they responsible, using that word, for the way their children behave? How far should we be pushing them? So we're also looking at, what else are you interested in? Why do you do a sport? Do you do it because you love it? What I think Viggers does particularly well, apart from just giving us a great plot with a great story and sort of saying, yeah, I know these people, they're on the football pitch all the time, Sorry, I will use football as a European on the soccer pitch. She's writes the teen and the teen concerns and what derails a teen exceptionally well. What hormones do, what your first sort of sexual encounter might, or why you might want that, how girls respond to envy, jealousy, how clear are your expectations, your parental expectations, and is there a point at which you say, God, if you're just not enjoying this, let's put a stop to it. It's exceptionally well done from that point of view. I feel great that she has a great empathy for the younger generation who may be, being forced, encouraged that they don't really want to be doing, or that they don't know whether they want to be doing it quite this much or quite this way. The moral, the outcomes of some of their choices are very well explored, and it really is a shockingly good read in places. It makes you go, wow, we've got to rethink some of our, we're famous for it in Australia, sports culture, but where do we want it to go to? And how much is our child's behaviour our fault as parents? Brilliant. Great read. So that's 2. We'll start you off at that. That's enough for the moment, and I'll be back with more shortly. See you next time. Like and subscribe. It's an idea. Thank you. Bye.